The Navy changed my life completely. The Navy in Darlene, January 15th, 1957. I was on the Princeton and on the Hornet, and then when I got out of the Navy, I was on Bennington. I got out on November 30th of 1960. I got discharged in the Navy, but I retired from the National Guard. Well, I joined the Navy because Wayne, the four of us went in together, and Wayne and I went for a ride before he was going to go in, and right before they were going to leave to go into the boot camp. And Wayne and I rode out to Saratoga, but Saratoga then was just a resort. It wasn't a town like it is now. But we went for a ride, and finally I just decided I'll go with them. So I said, let's go down to the recruiting office. It was in Provo. I don't know why, we just talking, and I said, let's go. So we rode down to the recruiting office, and I took their test, and he says, you can get in any school you want. So I joined the Navy then. And when we went to Salt Lake to leave, all their mothers and dads, but mine, they were all crying. Mine was having a party. They thought I was a ruffian. And I was. I was in the squadron. The squadron was a bunch of good guys, and probably in HS-8, the helicopter squadron, they were a good bunch of boys, everybody, officers and enlisted men and everybody. I mean, that was probably what changed my life. Those people there changed my life. You know, I was a hellion, and then I smoked and drank and like that. You know, I didn't give a crap about nothing. All those people set me straight. Then I wanted to go to school, and then I wanted to be good. I took their test, and I could go to any school I wanted to. So after boot camp, I went to Norman, Oklahoma to school. Well, I went into school for sonar, and when I come out of the Navy, when I went into HS-8, which is the helicopter squadron, they put me in to they call storekeeper. I think that's what they call it, storekeeper. I took officer candidate school, and I told there's 3 parts, and I passed 2 parts and flunked the 3rd part. The chief came in and asked me, he said, why don't you just take this test here, because that other test was filled up and it's hard to get it, you know, to get to a higher grade. So I took the storekeeper's test, and I passed that and got 3rd class, and so that's what I was, but I wasn't. That's not what I went to school for. I was E4, that was the 3rd class. 3rd class, okay, you go from apprentice to seaman, and then you go to 3rd class, and then you go to 2nd class, 1st class, chief. That's the highest you can go in that. But see, I was a sergeant in the National Guard, and so I flew in helicopters. I didn't pilot them. I was a crew member. That's what I'd done. We had a deck in front of us, but we sat there and we had a sonar screen there, and then helicopter would stop, we'd drop our domes, and we'd chase submarines. But we only had a 10 degree. We had to rotate our sonar back then. We only had 10 degrees. And so we'd have to rotate our deals. And then, in fact, one day I chased a whale. The only way you could tell the difference between a whale and a submarine and a pingin was the submarines wouldn't turn as sharp as the whales turned. They would turn sharp. The submarine couldn't do that. Yeah. So, and I chased this whale he just went straight. And so I was chasing, and you think that Officer Twarg was his name, was the officer, the pilot. And when the rest of the pilots heard what I was chasing for, I don't know how long, we was chasing a whale, they just lit on him like you couldn't, and he would never let me fly with him again. I'm just a boy from Lehigh, Utah.
Yeah.
The guy and this girl, well, it was down in National City Park, and we was hoovering over it, and we had our landing lights on, and we was flying over it. Well, he had pulled his car seat out of the back of his car, and him and his girlfriend was making out on the car seat. Well, the minute our light hit him, his old legs and everything went out like this, and they about died. And we about crashed because we was all laughing so hard. Oh, I mean, the Navy was good to me. It really was. We would spend a year in stateside in Imperial Beach, and then we would spend, I can't remember, it was 8 or 9 months aboard ship, or 7 months or something. I can't remember how many months aboard ship. And then we'd come back. Well, Hawaii then wasn't a state. It was state back halfway through the Navy when I was in the Navy. In fact, I was in Hawaii when it became statehood. But I was in there, and I was in Japan, Okinawa, the Philippines, Singapore, Australia. Well, we didn't get off the base. We just pulled in Australia, and I went, because that's where I seen all these girls. They was cute, but they had hair on their legs and arms, and under their arms, and that got to us. So I took the officer's test, and there was in 3 parts, and I flunked, or I passed 2, and I flunked the last one. And so my division officer, he told me, he said, why don't you go to San Diego school at night, and we'll set it up so you won't have to, if it falls on your, when you have duty, then we'll get somebody else. We'll just, you don't need to worry about it. So I started going to San Diego Junior College at nighttime. When I was registering, going through the line to register to go there, and they had my high school credits. Well, the woman looking at my credits looked at my credits and says, what the hell did you do, sleep through high school? And everybody started laughing, But Marge and them was in line. And so they recognized me when I was there eating, and they'd come. So we was all set and started talking. And that's how I got to know him. And I mean, she wasn't a girlfriend or anything like that. Her boyfriend went to BYU. You're from Utah? Well, how far do you live from BYU? And I said, well, probably about 18 miles. And so we started talking. All of us started piling around. The squadron was a bunch of good guys, and probably in HS-8, the helicopter squadron, they were a good bunch of boys. But I think what really changed my life was Marge and Linda and all those kids. They all knew how to surf. And they all knew, because they was from California, and they knew how to surf. And I was the outcast. I'd never even seen a surfboard. Marge taught me how to surf. And Stan, Sonny's boyfriend, he gave me a surfboard, and I was the worst surfer that ever tried surfing, but I said I had the best surfboard. We'd have to go down into the ready room to write letters and that at night, home, because that was air conditioned. And a lot of people, the heat didn't bother them. Down in our sleeping quarters. No, I mean, it was just too hot. We walked out of that and got into the gangwalk, and then we could go out on the catwalk. Well, at nights, we would sleep out on the catwalk, and I don't know how we didn't ever fall over, you know, because the edge of the catwalk was probably about that high. And then it had bars, you know, and railing across like that, and that's all you could hold on to, you know, but we couldn't sleep there, so we'd sleep there. I didn't get seasick on the carrier, but I went out fishing with a Marge and all those. But we went out fishing on the ocean, and I was the only sailor aboard the ship, aboard the boat, and I was puking. But that's the only time I got seasick. Well, we crashed, one helicopter crashed. Oh, yeah, that was on the base, though. It lost and it got in what we call auto rotation, and that slows you down. But when it hit, I don't know if the auto rotation was working or not. When it hit, the gas tanks exploded, and the plane caught on fire. And so this co-pilot, he got out, and the pilot, he didn't get out. And then I can't remember his name, but I told you about the sonar screen and all that was set right there. Well, we sat like this, and he had his hands like this because it was a table, and he had the blade transmission fell down and pinned his arms, so he couldn't get out. So he died, but and I can't remember their names, but the one got out, but I don't know why he didn't go out the door. He tried to go out the window, and the co-pilot, his life vest got caught, and the co-pilot got him out. So the co-pilot and him survived, and the two of them died. But that was the only accident. I would say the military is not for everybody, but I would advise anybody to go into the military. But like I said, it's not for everybody. But I mean, it teaches just not me. It teaches, I bet you, everybody I've talked to, everybody I associated with, it changed their way of thinking. And I think besides the squadron, I think through the whole Navy, Air Force, Army, Marines, whatever, it changes a lot of people's way of thinking. My outlook on life. It changed so dramatically that I mean it. If I hadn't went in the Navy, I'd have probably went in prison, being such a stupid. When I was I can't remember if I was a senior in I think I was a senior in high school. We broke into a beer joint and stole the beer, and we got caught. I mean, like I said, it's not for everybody, but it was for me. That's what I liked about the military. That's where I met Jim Ollis and Ray LaFleur. In fact, I can't remember, Charlie, I think it was. He was from Texas, and he was going to school with me after boot camp. We went to boot camp together, and then we went to school. And so I bought him a Coke. I went down the machine and bought us 2 Cokes, but he was going to go and leave to go to Texas to his home, you know. So when I got back, he'd already gone. So I said to Jim, "You want a Coke?" And that's how I met Jim. And Jim and I is the only one that ever stayed in touch with each other. We still do it. It all started with a Coke. And Ray LaFleur, we were cleaning blinds in the administration office. He's cleaning them, and that's how I met Ray. He was a black guy, but we went through the Navy, and that's where all of a sudden, I can't explain it, black don't mean nothing to me. I mean, a lot of this, but me, don't mean nothing. I don't know how to explain it, but it's just, they're just that. The same with Japanese people, any color, any people, it don't mean nothing to me. It was worse back then, but I mean, just course, I was from Utah, and that it didn't mean anything anyway, you know. I had been out of the Navy probably a year and a half or something like that. And Hondo and I got talking. Grant Johnson, Hondo, we called him. And he says, how would you like to meet Darlene? Because I knew Darlene in high school. And I said, well, she's married to Ron Rasmussen, isn't he? Because she went with Ron Rasmussen in high school. And he says, no. So I said, yeah, well, I guess it's good. Well, Phoebe Ennis, she was a teacher in Sunday school. Well, her husband owned the Lehigh Free Press. And through high school, well, Lehigh and American Fork and Pleasant Grove's newspapers, he owned them. And Phoebe was quite the roundabout person in Lehigh, you know. She was well known. So we was sitting there in the school, and when I sat down, she says, will you get up and introduce yourself? Because I'd never been to church, Sunday school, you know. And I'd been in the Navy, and nobody knew me. So I got up, and I introduced myself, and I sat back down. And then Phoebe said something, and old Hondo says, he's not here because of you, Phoebe. He's here because of Darlene. I was about that big. Darlene was too. So that's how we started dating. Of course, she wasn't sure at first about me because I was still drinking that, you know, and smoked. But giving up whiskey and giving up cigarettes, I had no problem. Of course, I didn't smoke that much. A pack of cigarettes would last me a week. So I never smoked that much. But you think I can give up Coke? I lasted one day. Carolyn and I was going to give up Coke. We lasted one day. Darlene had quite an impact. In fact, I'll tell you this. I sat in the bishop's office, and, you know, I wasn't sure the temple was right for me. And Darlene wanted the temple. She wanted it real bad. But she never did tell me because she knew I didn't want to go. And so the bishop got me in his office. You know what he told me? Get your head out of your ass. She was a good mother. She made me a good dad. I couldn't sleep. I just go.
It's never scary sleeping on the catwalk?
No, I mean, I never fell off.